All right, I'm in the center of all this chaos. Wave your hands with me. Ah, okay. Thank you guys for coming to Stone Soup for another week of an all open mic. Thanks everyone, new, old, or long, or haven't been here for a while, who are gracing me with your presence. Congratulations to CCR Schrager for a successful book release gallery show this past Sunday. And congratulations to Jeff Taylor for being able to sit upright after COVID. It's congratulations for everyone who's managed to get this far into November. I don't know if next week's going to be any better. Hope you guys vote. Hope you guys do what you can, and brace yourself for impact on Tuesday night. We have a lot of people this week. Oh, and we should also we wished Carol happy birthday last week, but let's wish her a belated one. Her birthday was quite the bash, and I'm sure she'll tell you about it or read all the notes that she forgot to bring with her from the party. But we'll be looking forward to that. For now, we're gonna get started on the open mic, and hopefully more announcements will be coming for the live show next week, and other features on the way. Oh, and Jeff Taylor put in a new fireside chat for the Garage Poet, so looking forward to that. And yes, I should announce that I'll be featuring with John Wizek this Friday as part of the Garage Poets fireside chat. So I'll figure out what I'm going to be reading. If it's not going to be recorded, I'll bring all the stuff that's on my Patreon, or I'll surprise you one way or another. That's about it. I'm mumbling too much because I've just been doing like 20 things at the same time. So hopefully more surprises will be announced for Stone Soup. And thanks everyone for coming. And let's start off with our first open mic participant. The Ramninator 5000 went through the names, and we now have kicking off the event. Let's welcome up Jan Rowe.
Thank you. This is from the weekly and the Black Sea Writers group we go to every Tuesday morning at the cathedral. It's probably a second or third draft. It's called, Why Did Rents Triple or Quadruple in 20 years? Following up task, so difficult, sometimes not done. I usually try repeatedly per biblical proverb, yet in retrospect, I know how to beat a dead horse. But in August, I journaled that housing advocates had visited the new head of government agency, Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, the head of HFHA. I don't know what that acronym means. Her name's Sandra Thomas. The housing advocates meeting needs follow-up by email or postcard because envelopes are delayed. They still check for anthrax. So some concerns for Sandra Thomas. Are more vouchers being given than housing available? Why would the government allow Thomas Barak to buy 31,000 foreclosed homes? And where did the money originate? He only allowed $800 annually for upkeep per house. So then you have a often reported ceiling fan falling near a sleeping baby. Remember, Sandra Thomas, Barak's corporation needs federally backed mortgages. He's on trial for being an unregistered agent for the UAE, United Arab Emirates. Not that baby hurting the baby. Also, he and Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein in the 1990s were known as the nightlife musketeers. Okay. Also, former Secretary of the State Treasury, Steve Mnuchin, he foreclosed about 36,000 when he's supposed to be preventing foreclosure. So there's 10 empty units in San Francisco per homeless person, and we're right up there with San Francisco. Now, some of you older folks can remember Arlo Guthrie's coming into Los Angeles, bringing in a couple of keys. Arlo Guthrie coming into Los Angeles. I'd like you to hear that in your head. But this is coming into Washington, D.C. We were surrounded by empty apartment towers, multitudes. The rent's too high. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Let's see who I can bring up next. Let's start off, well, let's continue, I should say, with Mr. John Wezick. John Wezick, are you ready today? See him
I
featured alongside
certainly am. I certainly am. And by the way, I've got another feature as well as Friday night, also on Monday night at Blue Waters, and I put that in the chat as well. Here's a story called Barbecue Secrets of the Pros that just appeared on a website called The Ergonaut. Intrepid explorer Dirk Phonebook and his trusty companion Creech hacked their way through the tangerine trees with machetes. Give me some of that Triceratops jerky, will you? Phonebook asked. Go easy on that stuff. Creech removed a shriveled piece from his khaki backpack. We need to conserve our supplies. It shouldn't be too much farther. Phonebook unfolded a map showing a red line that zigzagged all over the globe. Take a left at Phil's Sunoco, right at the Great Pyramid at Giza, and pass through the pterodactyl graveyard. There's something up ahead. Creech shaded his eyes from the paper sun and the marmalade sky to get a better look. Looks like some kind of monument. Phonebook knelt by a granite marker. And there's an inscription. To our beloved Theodore, who was taken from us too soon, 65 million 20 BC to 65 million 13 BC. It's the pterodactyl graveyard. The Admiral's secret recipe of 7 herbs and spices can't be far away now. Creech held his dusty hat over his heart out of respect for the dead. They say Elvis died choking on pieces of the Admiral's fried pterodactyl, Phoenix said. Somebody call my name? Elvis emerged from behind the cellophane flowers. It's the king, Creech exclaimed. Hello, friends. Elvis held up a CD. Do you miss the music of the 50s? Such songs as Love Me Slender, Pound Dog, and Railhouse Jock? Now you can get Bogota Records collection 50's greatest hits for just $10 a day. Once we receive your order, we'll put a lien on your house and hire an enforcer to photograph your children as they go about their day. You'll receive your first broken finger in less than a week, along with a collection of swinging oldies. I served with Elvis Presley, Phonebook said. I knew Elvis Presley. Elvis was a friend of mine. Mister, you're no Elvis Presley. And besides, we get our music in MP3, Creech added. MP3, huh? Well, I prefer an MP5. Elvis brandished a Heckler & Koch MP5 submachine gun. Now hand over your lymph nodes. My God, he's a Dybbuk, Phonebook said. A what? Creech asked. You can look it up later on Wikipedia at the Wi-Fi hotspot next to the tar pit, but there is no time for questions now. We need to act before our lymph ducts are as dry as the Atacama Desert. If you don't want astronomers camping out in your armpits, help me draw a pentagram in fossilized trilobites. Phonebook squatted and began to draw in the dirt. I'm waiting. Elvis waved the submachine gun at the 2 explorers. Just digging up some wild chicory roots, Creech said. Makes those juicy lymph nodes taste so much better. Carpe diem, cogito ergo sum, delirium tremens. Phonebook waved his hands as he recited the incantations. Memento mori, veni vidi vici, in vino veritas. Harvey, fire sign! Elvis exclaimed as the disgraced movie producer emerged from a puff of smoke. Well, Elvis Presley. Fire sign unfolded a document. It says here you're under contract for a dozen movies, including Abattoir Rock, Blue Arizona, Kid Vlad the Impaler, and Snailback. You're coming with me. But I'm not Elvis Presley. I'm only the vengeful spirit of an impersonator known as Elvis Prosciutto. Even better, kid, take my hand and I'll make you a star. Elvis took Firesign's hand and trembles. Why, it's so cold and hard. He sang the ending from Don Giovanni as Firesign dragged him to hell. Chi l'anima mi lascerà, chi magita la viscera, che strazio mi, che smania, che inferno, che terror. Well, that'll keep 'em busy for 30 minutes or so, Creech said. More like 20, the way Roger Corman's Ghost cranks out those Z movies, Phone Book replied. Anyway, it's enough time for us to check out the KFP on top of that pile of pterodactyl bones. KFP! Creech stumbled as he rushed over fossilized drumsticks to get to his goal. I'm gonna get me 360-piece bucket with biscuits, mashed potatoes, and coleslaw. Make mine extra crispy, Phonebook called from behind. The explorers hustled past a Tyrannosaurus wearing a fake mustache and baseball hat pulled low over his eyes. Once inside the red and white building, they found two men in bowler hats standing by a willow tree in the lobby. Hey, Vladimir and Estragon, Creech said to the two. He isn't coming. Go home.
Oh, John, I want to see this. I want to see this movie treatment written up quickly.
Yeah, I will say that this started out as a sketch from a sketch writing class where I was supposed to write something weird, and the instructor just didn't understand it at all. So,
I want to see Bruce Campbell as the Elvis guy. It's like the sequel to Bubba Hotep, if you know what that is.
oh, cool. Yeah, love it. Love
I
it.
could see. I see this working.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. And now we have Mr. Chris Fitzgerald. Unmute yourself if ready, sir.
Okay.
I can hear you.
It all falls back on these three were considered poets who I don't consider poets. And so at one point I took apart Auden, Pound, and Eliot. And this is the last part of it. It was 3 lines I took from Auden's poem, in memory of Butler Yeats. The first line was, Mad Island drove you into poetry. And I said, an Englishman calling an Irishman mad is like Danny Diarrhea telling Frankie Fat Pants he has a hygiene problem. And the second line was, which I consider one of the most bogus lines that anyone ever wrote, was poetry makes nothing happen. I mean, as if that's what poetry has anything to do with anything. Religion makes something. Those are the claims religion makes, and politics and philosophy. They try to make something happen. And so now we're on the third line. The third line of Auden's follow poet, follow right. Who does he want us to follow? Is meant to T.S. Eliot, the British poet from St. Louis, as Groucho Marx was fond of calling him? Eliot became a naturalized British citizen in 1927. 7 years later, he was writing essays about not wanting Jewish freethinkers living in his neighborhood. Jewish freethinkers had been living in that London neighborhood 250 years before T.S. What's-his-face had lived there. 400 years before, they had been thrown out of England by King Edmund the Digit. He owned Jewish moneylenders scratched. By throwing them out, he didn't have to repay his honest debt to them. As a bonus, he collected the debts his nobles owed to the Jewish moneylenders. What a piece of shit was a divine right of kings. After World War II, I would have thrown Eliot in prison for his part in the aiding and abetting of a Holocaust. Follow poet, follow right. Eliot's mentor, Ezra Pound? Pound spent 12 years confined to St. Elizabeth's Hospital in D.C. because he had friends who helped keep him out of prison. But he did make treasonous broadcasts from Rome, supporting the fascist position during World War II. He also wrote a book comparing Mussolini to Jefferson. I stated before, that was like comparing the number 2 to Chanel number 5. Oh, sure, they both have number in their title. I have proposed that if Mossad, the Israeli intelligence service, had been in Naples in 58 when Pound returned to Italy from America, Pound immediately gave the fascist fucking salute. If Mossad had broken his elbow in 3 places, I mean, let him hate all he wants. Just give him a little trouble saluting that hate. Common decency would be playing a more active role in the world today. This trick elbow would be in memory of the 70, 80 million people who left the world early because of the fascist dirtbags. What do you say? Let's follow the person who first stated, follow poet, follow right, Auden? I don't think so. He once posited an ideal, I guess, in another poem. Was he free? Was he happy? That question is absurd. Had anything been wrong, we would certainly have heard. That poem was crippled by feudalism's main prejudice. I'm better than you, dipshit. In this case, I'm smarter than you. One person finding what a rich and beautiful journey the language can take you on, and another not being able to discover that it's words which gives us our identity. Poetry, unlike politics and religion, primary concern is not controlling the narrative, but in salute and beauty and truth. Dun 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 dun. Look at photos of Auden in his 40s, 50s, and 60s. If that face is free and happy, I want to be chained and sappy. I started this work 6-9 months ago. One of my closing lines was, I wouldn't follow Auden, Elliott, Pound in a conga line, but I realized I love a good conga line. Those 3, Auden, Elliott, Pound, were quite possibly the 3 worst conga line performers the 20th century had to offer. Dun 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 dun. The conga line was Cuban, Black, Latin, 1920s, 1930s. It was a Havana street dance. Hollywood loved to throw it in its musicals. Dun 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 dun. In 1932, downtown Boston, you paid 35 cents to watch 2 movies at the cinema. Instead of you thinking about your present situation, poor, getting poorer, during the depths of the Depression, you looked up at the screen, saw people dancing and enjoying themselves. Dun 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 dun. Those 3 writers from the 20s and 30s, instead of writing such shabby, slimy, shallow, shitty verse, they should have found themselves a good conga line. Dun 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 dun. That might have been just the thing to break them out of that know-it-all funk. Dun 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 dun, that seemed to entomb their verse and lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Moving on now, let's bring up legacy poet Julian Powers to the mic. Well, her mic, but you know what I mean.
Thanks. I am the shadow in the meadow with the sun upon my back that's holding me up above the tall grass, where salt waters flood my shoe soles, where their seagulls gather, they call, and I walk along the edge, the border of it all. Alone I move up the tracks towards my sanctuary, where I escape to lie and bask encompassed by the light. The warmth mends the pieces that are falling apart. Here is my freedom disappearing in the marsh. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. Up next, someone who I haven't seen on our mic before, at least not in recent memory. I think this is his first time. Let's welcome up John Hughes Engstrom. Whoops, still muted. You're still muted, sir. There you go.
Now?
You're good.
Great. Okay. This is a poem that I wrote during a class that I recently took in. It was about writing about death, and one of the assignments was to write your own obituary. You know, that was the assignment, and I versified it. So qualifies as a poem. Anyway, John Hughes Engstrom died at 1:15 p.m. on a Sunday of injuries that he sustained while trying to square a circle and bark up the wrong tree at the same time. He is survived by a biological sister, a brother-in-law, and their 3 children, a biological son with autism, and 2 adopted twin girls, one of those with infant trauma issues. The wrong tree that Engstrom barked up prior to his death at age 67 was located in the storied Olmsted landscape known as the Emerald Necklace, a meticulously beautified pocket of Boston's South End, stuffed with historic art museums, important art schools, weeping willows and bridges out of Monet, and opulent brick residences and promenades. It was a pretty afternoon of sun and cloud when Engstrom shuffled off his mortal coil on the banks of a river and became one with Ovid and Shakespeare. He considered that his major life achievements were in avoiding ownership of a cell phone, wristwatch, and automobile. His fragmentary, nonsensical education, decided on by schizoid parents, was like the children's game of hopscotch, laced with LSD and Valium. Engstrom was Plymouth Plantation's very first out queer employee. He published reviews and articles on cultural subjects in the Boston Globe and other journals. The trajectory of Engstrom's earning potential spiraled steadily downward as soon as he hit the workforce, like the devil getting kicked out of heaven. No wonder obsessed with murderesses and witches. Last day at Plymouth in Velasquez apparel, a 12-year-old told Engstrom he looked like an axe murderer. Engstrom expressed his wish that his bodily remains be donated to science fiction and that flowers be sent right back where they came from. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Sure.
And going down the first round of our round robin, we're going to go to one of our phone participants. I'm going to ask her to unmute herself, and it was good to see her this weekend as well. Ms. Carol, let's welcome up Nancy Dotson.
Waiting for a smile. A smile upon your face is a lovely image to see. Her charm and her dander enlivens the face with candor. A high-spirited girl, like sparkling crystal, alert to smile. A meek, gentle girl, caught happiness and joy. Never to smile again is to be a depressed human. Though not alert, it lessens frivolity. Smile, gal, have a soul and have a spirit. I like happy souls exploding galore, you drummers. Come Halloween, walk through eternity. Join them, my friend, join them again, for it's Hallows Eve.
Thank you, Nancy.
Hmm.
And up next is the person who is making my Friday feature alongside John Wesick happening. He's also one of the first features we had this summer as Stone Soup went live again alongside his other co-members of the Garage Poets. Let's welcome up Jeff Taylor. You seem to be still muted, sir. I'm not sure what's happening.
You can't hear you, Jeff.
You were fine earlier, so I'm not sure what's happened. Maybe because you put the cool shades on, it took away the mic. I don't know.
How about now? Can you hear me better now?
We can hear you. We can hear you. Period. Yeah, that's great.
Great. All right. I just quickly put together a different mic setup because I had just my headphone in.
Got it.
And I don't know. I don't like to read with my headphone in for some reason. All right, so I'm going to read somebody else's poem. I'm going to do a cover. We have the same first name, but we are indeed not the same person. This is by Jeffrey McDaniel, from his book, The Alibi School. He's a early slam poet. I think this book came out on Manic D Press in like the late 90s. And this poem is called The God Hole. My vices race each other in a track meet. The finish line is where eternity begins. One false starts and takes an early lead, but can't shut up. A second insults the others, because there's no corner to hide in. Earth weeps a little faster. A third pulls a bag of chips from his pocket and munches away shamelessly. Honey is the opposite of mustard. A fourth nods her cloud at everything. Another can't stop staring into the bleachers, projecting his libido on random bad girl types. In the sixth row, a child beats his father with a bottle of arthritis medicine. A wound is a place in sex returned to. When church bells are removed, the ear of Christ stops ringing. That's The God Hole by Jeffrey McDaniel.
Very nice. I remember seeing a lot of Mac Press books for available in certain alternative catalogs and stuff. They had some interesting work. More than I could afford at that time. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, they were one of the first like indie presses I came across.
Let us go now to one of our regulars, Mr. Edward Galt, aka Magister Galt. Looks like you still have to unmute yourself, sir.
Yes. Okay,
There
yeah,
you
I'm
go.
trying to unmute myself. There we go. All right. Oh no. Why don't you come back to me because my computer just went down. I'm sorry. You come back to me a little later in the round robin,
Okay.
and I'll.
I mean, I can hear you
computer went
fine,
down.
but I understand. All right, let us go
Yeah, okay.
to let's go to Bill Lewis. Bill, everyone else is not ready yet. You're the best of what's left. Let's do this. Yes, I'm evil.
Who will buy this wonderful morning? Such a sky I never did see. Who will tie it up with the ribbon and put it in a box for me? Oh, what a wonderful world we live in. I am so happy. What a wonderful time I've been having. Teaching the kids is such a joy in my life. And with all the things and all the complaints that I hear from older people around me, to be with the kids and see what they're doing and their excitement and their growth, I'm thinking, bunch of old fogies we have here. We are going in the grave. The world is going to be such a beautiful place once we're out of the way. Oh, God. Just from teaching classes and my friends who are doing things and excited with life and buying houses. Yes, it is possible. People are doing it, starting businesses, being happy. And yeah, so I just got really excited and blah, 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 which you know I tend to do. But if I calm down and mellow out, they used to think that I was on drugs all the time. They said, oh my God, that Bill, he's taking cocaine, he's taking uppers, lefties. And like, no, this is what I'm normally like. This is me normally. To see your smile is all I want. That is until I've seen it. And then it fills my heart with joys and how I want to kiss it. Your hand is lovely, smooth and strong. It seems to hold no magic until it strokes my cheek so soft, I'm desperate to have it. The times we strode upon the path, our fingers close entwined, laughing, talking, dreaming, kissing, our heads so filled with wine. What more could life offer? What more could there be? Just the two of us together, and then in a year or two, perhaps 3.
I have it on good authority that Ed is back and he's ready to go. So we'll go back to him now. Sir, if you can unmute yourself.
All right. Am I unmuted? Okay, good. I'm going to start off with a piece I just recently published in Oddball magazine. It was my Halloween poem, A Nice Little Nightmare I Had, back in 1974. It's still ripe, still very good. Still pretty scary. Okay. It's called View from a Bridge. View from a It was easy for my father to say it was only a dream. He wasn't there to see Jeremy's face bobbing in the water as it flowed down the river, looking up at me. As I stared down from the bridge, unable for some reason to make a move, either to leave or to save him. But it was too late to save him. All I could do was to watch as his face slowly drifted down the river, still looking up at me with those dead but trusting eyes, asking why. I simply stared into my cereal, toast, and juice, feeling sick. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. And now I think we'll go to Carol Weston, our other telephone participant, who I'm going to help unmute right now. Carol, you are good to go.
Hi. Well, I just want to say to all of you, happy my birthday. It was my 88th, and it was on October 29, and I had a gathering at the church in Quincy. And in my heart, I would have had every one of you, but they said I could only have a certain number, and so thank God. And Chad, thank you so much for coming. Tom Daly would like to have a copy of your poem. So now, today is All Souls Day. There is a thin, oh, this is not me. It's, whoops. Brian O'Donovan, okay, last year. Today is All Souls Day. There is a thin veil between the living and the dead, between Halloween and All Souls Day, a celebration of humanity. Dia de Muerto, Mexico. Don Galloway, my husband, breathing, asleep. I could hear the human mountains of the sleeping earth, breathing under stars. And then I woke November 1st. Oh, pumpkin, you are the weight of my soul. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Carol. Keeping it going as we're getting closer to the end of the first round of this round robin. Let's go now to Kathleen Hulsler.
Thanks, Chad, for including me. Got here a little late cleaning up dinner. So there's something I wrote this morning. It's called Bedazzled Slumbers. Sinking into memory foam, I'd glide down sleep's runway to a dream landing. Cracker crumbs, paw prints, and drool. The daily luxury of oblivion, loose satin edges of ancient blankets wrap around my throat. Fingers clutch massively rewashed old sheets, softly frayed. Quilt dunes bolster the hips. Restless toes seek fresh air and catch moonlight. The gentle rasp on the pillow next door marks the beat of companionship, spooning voyages through delicious unconsciousness. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. And the Ramdonator has chosen a musical interlude to happen right now, starting with, starting and ending, unless anyone wants to do percussion, with Mr. Ethan Mackler, Boston Poetry. Take it away, sir. Next time I gotta definitely do a side by side of you dancing with Ethan, J. Bill, just see if I can turn into a screensaver. All right, so we are getting close to the end. So we're gonna go now with a man just fresh off his book release, his anthology of his open mic poems, and of course, a successful art show in Connecticut. Let's welcome up CC Shagra.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna put a little thing in the chat here for the book and all that. I'm trying to get the website up and running so people, and thank you, John, have actually did well with the book already online. And I just had a few dozen made before, so I would have them in hand, and it's a good thing. People who never saw or heard or just happened to wander in wanted a copy, and here it is. The open microphone, human rights, free speech, and the word. It has all the poems from the 3 chapbooks. It includes 3 essays, what it was like to do this 20 years later, one for each section. It has a praise section, which includes Kate McQuaid, David Amram, Ron Whitehead, Jeff Robinson, Tony Vandermeer, Ken Field, and Melissa Goodrum. I don't know if you remember her. She used to go there. So the full paragraph that they sent, each one has a page with the full paragraph. And you know how when you get a book, it's got the quotes on the back. Well, if you go inside the book to the praise section, I actually included the entire paragraph from where it came. So it's not like this guy was a real jerk and he was the best poet in the world, but you just get the second half. So I put the whole thing together. It just, I felt like I just wanted to do that because I love honesty. And Kathleen did an amazing job helping me. There's a print hub in Windsor, Connecticut that did an amazing job making the book. It's beautiful. It even got a little microphone on the spine. So I did this opening yesterday, and if I could share screen, and I actually took the video of the book release, which I didn't just read poems from the book. I said, this is who I am. This is what I hold in my hand, and this is why it's important. And I believe everyone needs to have a copy. This is a contribution to, it was mostly at Stone Soup that, for 10 years, easy 1,000 poetry readings there. Between all of them, it was, I lowballed it at 1,500. I've said this before, but if I could just continue talking until I press play on this thing, I'm going to just let this go for a little while, and then I'm going to stop it just right from almost the beginning.
I gave you the share option, CC.
Oh, okay. And then I'll just say, just start waving your hands or something. When I press record and play, I don't know if I lose like some sort of like function. So I'll try to know to let this go for not too long. But you'll see that I basically said, yeah, I'll just let it play. But thank you, everyone here. Let's see what we got here. You're going to see the whole program. This is called VideoPad that I'm working on. It's the cheapest program that you can get. So let's see what we got here. Let's go past the introduction. Let's see where this is. Okay.
CC, it looks like you didn't share sound, just to let you know.
Okay.
I'm checking.
Yep. No, you're right. You're right.
Just making sure it's not something on my end.
Your self-reactions.
Okay, this
hunger.
is just where it is.
While
Where
within
it picks up.
your own mind you are mocked by your very own strong, tender efforts, and pity moves to applaud you, and you feel honored. It doesn't matter whether just the act of behaving and doing and standing up and giving yourself a voice, what I call touching art and letting art touch you back. It's a profound thing that happens, and you really don't know what that feels like until you do it. And then it's not easy to see. It's not easy to see. Number 5 begins, it happens, and this is fine. A tender finding of fiery confidence moves your pen in hand, and out of your mind alone you write. to draw the mind vision silhouette of self, and then to feel the walls standing between old truths fall. Damn cell phones. Okay.
Remember.
Old truths fall. Damn cell phones. Okay.
I don't know what's happening
At
here.
least I had it low.
This is doing a weird thing. Maybe I should
Okay,
stop it.
hopefully that did it.
So let's see, it's
Video
not working
software.
very well. Did I stop it?
You did.
Okay, because I could still hear it in the background. Yeah, so basically, let me just say what, so I read from the book, and what I did is I opened the book and I started reading them, and I read just the first opening lines, like she could no longer let her breathing room be, and the breath that housed why she lived being a writer choked on alive and forgot she would someday reach the end of her life. And then I stopped and said, in this book contains lessons, thousands of lessons, hundreds of lessons, people over and over again. There were over 60 poems that ended up, just the 11 that ended up in this book. And I thought it was so important that you could walk into a room, put your name down, and speak your mind and not be killed. And then when Kate McQuaid did that article, and then I got mentioned, it led to me writing the first book, saying, "Oh, I got to thank her somehow. I'll make a book of poetry and dedicate it to her." It turned into an idea that I was going to write 6 or 7, and then it took 5 years for the whole thing to go through, writing 3 books. The first 2 got published twice. And then at this reading, I continued, with lines I just said, and he wore the word poet like a 5-point 10-star badge. And then I went on to read about Death of an Ego. And after I read each introduction, I said, these are people's lives. There's so much information in this book that if you're going to do this with your life, let all of my failures, everyone's failures, the success, the conflicts, the everything, just to get to the threshold that this is a sacred thing that we're doing, that we have a voice. Democracy's failing. And what is democracy but to have a voice and to be heard and to speak? So it's a very important work. If I write 10, 15 books in my life, nothing is going to compare that. I waited 20 years to publish, because when you write a book 20 years ago, at the turn of the century, and I put the words Death of an Ego, it's like, who the fuck am I to say, write a book called Death of an Ego? Jeff Robbins said, when it comes to the open mic, CC wrote the Bible. And I went to him 20 years later. I go, Jeff, all those people in the book that have quotes on the back, I said, I want you to take this book, because most of them knew it, if not all of them, 20 years ago. And I said, I want you to look at this. Does this withhold time? Is this a contribution to life? Did I say this is what we're doing with our life? This is what the open mic is. These are the faults and the trials and the successes and the ego journey of surviving our own shit. And these are things that can happen to us, and there is no war, and we can transcend it. And then there's Walker, and then there's the reflections. And I said, whatever you say in those paragraphs that are in here, please don't just be nice about the book. I don't want no fucking nice words. I want whatever you say, they're words you can live by. And if you could do that, send me a paragraph. And that's what happened. And then COVID put a little delay in the whole thing. Eugenics. We'll leave that alone for now. But yeah, so thank you. I hope everyone gets one. I hope you tell people. If you know anybody that's doing this for the first time, this will save them a lot of living and dying and growing and getting out of their own way, so that they can be the work of art that they really are, that we all are, regardless of who we are, academic achievers or not. Having a voice is a big deal. Most of you know that people have not committed suicide, have gotten out of jail, have ended their abuse addiction, have ended their relationships that were abusive. Poetry saves lives. And what Jack did and what Stone Soup has did for so many people, that spawned not just 3 venues, but up to where there was a time at the end of that little renaissance that you can go to about 30 open mics in 1 week in the Boston area, where during the years it was written, it was about 3 to 5 as it started to grow. So I hope you do that. The links in the thing, and then the Human Room Open, all the other projects. That's enough. I spent too much time talking. Thank you for your time and your contributions to life here. So this is an amazing thing we have, and we should take care of each other. That's it.
Thank you, Cece, and I'll grab the book soon. We're going to end the first round of the round robin, and we're going to get to it and start over again. But first, we can't do that without James Van Looy. Read his column, It's All One Thing, in oddballmagazine.com this Thursday at 11 a.m. And let's, without further ado, Mr. Van Looy.
Thanks, Chad. So I have a piece here, which is it's about translating my great-grandfather's cousin's autobiography. It's called "Oh, What a Rush, Oh, What a Rush." Suddenly, I can finally see exactly what I've been working on all these years, translating for a solid year now, my grandfather's cousin's autobiography of growing up in old Haarlem, Holland orphanage. He's given me this model to see my own life whole and new. Everything known suddenly changed, transformed, normal, expected as is, become what no one knew or at least bothered to note. And by translating the past, I now see my own life as history that is just is. Industrial America, on the block of global capital, going overseas as I was growing up in Belt, a factory like Bay City, to Detroit, to Toledo and Youngstown, and then all the way down to Pittsburgh, Braddock, where somehow, not even knowing that's where my grandparents, great uncles, and their 3 wives all met and married and started families that ended up in Detroit and out in New Jersey and all the way to Switzerland, where my great Uncle Freddie's wife would come from years later to visit my 4th grade class as I tried to adjust again to a new school after falling from playground monkey bars and gaining a concussion to start the new school year, a new life here and there, and right now, way back then. And I have a song here, a Dutch song called Deze Zee. Deze Zee, the sea. Deze Zee, die ik zo vaak bewaren heb. Zee van tranen, leven, zee van overvloeden heb. Deze zee is mij zo vaak te hoog gegaan. Maar wat zij deed, ik kan haar nooit verstaan. Ieder licht dat mij dicht bij de haven bracht, bleek een schip passerend in de koude donkere nacht. In de aften, zit dan ik mijn zeilen weer. Deze zee blijkt mooier elke keer. Hoe vaak vond ik niet aan land, was de waarde, was de grond, likte zij niet zout van mijn ogen en mijn man. Hoe vaak dat ik niet harder met wandelen kan, terwijl ik droomde van een blauwe horizon. Deze zee, hoe vaak heb ik haar niet vervloekt. Zij is anders dan de kind waar iedereen naar zoekt. Maar op haar koven ben ik altijd dik bij mij. Deze zee ben jij. Hoe vaak vond ik niet aan land, was de vaderste kant. Likte zij niet het zout van mijn ogen en mijn man. O, wacht dat ik niet hard op mij veranderen kan, terwijl ik droomde van een blauwe horizon. Hoe vaak vond ik niet aan land, was de vader, was de kraan, likte zij niet het zand van mijn ogen en mijn hand. Hoe vaak dat ik niet hard op mij veranderen kan, terwijl ik droomde van een blauwe horizon. Far up your Govan Bennett, all tide dick my mind. Jesus say, ben I. Hoe werkt dan dit niet aan land, beste vaart, beste grond, lukte zij niet het zout van mijn ogen en mijn mond. Deze zee, daarvan ik leen, de diepte ken, wie dat it for good hearts man and deze sea left in my that ben I. Thank you for listening.
And thanks for speaking, James. And now you get to keep your mic on because we're going right back to start, collecting $200, pass and go. And we start once again with Jan Rowe. No rhyme intended there, but it's a nice place.
So this is actually from the Black Seeds August, a week in August, and it was actually a summary of 2 other weeks. And it's Richie Berman is one of our special people. He works for the Red Sox, and he's a best buddy. So I summarize and then I do the final ones. And also for those, some of you may be too young for Eric Burton and the Animals. We got to get out of this place. But it was recently, not too many years ago, used in Michael Moore's documentary where they're going to Guantanamo for healthcare. And in Michael Moore's documentary, there's a jet leaving and they're playing. He's saying it's bin Laden's. We got to get out of this place. Okay. Actually, as Richie would say, the good guys with guns outnumbered the bad guys with a gun. But 19 fourth graders and 2 teachers are dead. Now I hear close to 400 good guys responded. In fact, the good guys with guns turned the guns against the parents of the 4th graders and the police spouse of one of the murdered teachers. She died a day or so later. One surviving 4th grader said what would she would do the next time. Another argument is we must accept all these gun deaths if we want to live in the USA, although we did have an assault weapons ban until Cheney Bush regime removed it. So I guess we're not supposed to complain if we get shot at the supermarket. This acceptance was a response to my friend saying that her family member had been grazed by a bullet in her shoulder, but her car had been hit 26 more times as someone opened a window in the 5th floor and started shooting. Thank you, Supreme Court, for all these gun deaths. A final argument is that air flights were not canceled after the Twin Towers fell following 9/11/01. Actually, as my friend and fellow Black Seed writer Richie Berman says, actually, like we got to get out of this place. 9/11 canceled flights, except the bin Ladens were permitted to fly the next day, as Michael Moore's documentary reminds. We were headed to a family wedding in Northwest DC by train, but most in the wedding had been flying in, so last minute changes in flights, they're all canceled. So for a good many days, quiet skies, only the bin Ladens able to fly. And I remember still in November, it was smoking, the Twin Towers. So actually, as Richie Berman would say, thank you.
Sure,
Thank you, Jan. And going from Jan to John. See him and I read.
What a transition! What a transition! Okay, here's a cover piece. It comes out of a magazine called Waymark that Roger Aplon publishes, and he's got his bunch of poems by Denise Duhamel, and so here's a parody that she did. I saw the best minds of my generation, that is Fauci, Birx, undermined, doctors hungry for truth, dragging themselves through inane press conferences, trying to fix the prez's anger, angels with hip replacements and fashionable scarves holding up graphs, making predictions, scientific dynamos trying to break through to give us light, who, in spite of political tatters and hollow men, sat up, zooming in the virtual darkness of cold, hard facts, floating across cable news host desks, contemplating death rates, who bared their brains to the WHO and saw Monday night riots, angels staggering in Lafayette Square, flashbangs illuminating, who passed by unimaginative reporters with radiant, cool eyes, pleading with Americans not to drink bleach, tragedy among the non-scholars of pseudoscience who were expelled from news conference by a crazy and obscure know-nothing on the whims of a nutskull, who covered in green rooms, undercut, retrieving their speeches from waste baskets and listening to the terrible thump of Trump through the wall, who get their words twisted, regurgitated, returned to Joe Scarborough with a plan for keeping nursing home patients and prisoners safer, flattening, who urged the closing of hotels and theme parks, Paradise Church shopping malls, and their mannequins' torsos glowing night after night with dreams of capitalism now and waking nightmare of alcohol, wipes, cock, and endless halls no longer welcome in gentlemen's clubs, strippers, shuddering clouds of debt, no spinning on poles, no dollars, Canadian or American, all motionless world of highways with no cars. Peter Pans playing solitaire on their iPads, pots and more plots dug up in cemeteries, drunken, safer at home moms and dads banging plants from windows and rooftops in honor of first responders who were busy at work, their kids home from school, storefronts boarded up, blinking traffic lights, ambulances, but not much else, sun and moon and tree vibrations and spring dusks of Minneapolis and Louisville and Buffalo, until the protests began, the best minds of the next generation chanting, demanding sanity from the worst King America, who was clearly out of his mind. Anyway, that was Denise Duhamel with a Howl parody.
All right, John, thank you. Reminds me of the time I think the Yippies tried to levitate the White House to performed a ritual for it.
It was the Pentagon, right? It was the
Pentagon, yes,
and,
Pentagon.
and it was didn't they write it in Norman Mailer's
Ed Sanders did that, right?
Oh, it sounds like Ed Sanders had to have been there, absolutely.
Up next, let's welcome back Chris Fitzgerald. Is he here? Oh, there he is. So just unmute yourself, sir, and we can go. There you go.
All right, 2 small pages and then a little poem I wrote once. This is a New York City smartass wannabe, the first page. In America, it always seems to come down to the conflict between small town and big city life. Take the 2016 presidential election as an example. New York City has been the center of American urban culture for 250 years. Boston was the first 150 years. New York had one of their own in the 2016 election from Queens, Donald Trump. 82% of his fellow New Yorkers voted for a person who grew up in a small suburb of Chicago. And of that 82%, 90% of them thought Trump should be thrown out with the dirty diapers. And of that 90%, 67% of them thought Trump should be thrown out first, then the dirty diapers. As you can tell, I love New York City pose. The exquisite details sometimes bring tears to my eyes. Now, this is a real New Yorker smartass, and this is the best you can do in a democracy. This is a guy who brought joy to the city of his birth. No one ever brought a more New Yorker's delight in the language than Bogey, baby. Remember when Claude Rains said to him, Why did you come to Casablanca, Rick? Why did you come? I came for my health, the waters. But Rick, we're in the middle of the desert. No water here. Rick, I was misinformed. Beautiful New York sass. When I was 18, 19, the next line I wanted to say myself, saying if I have to say it twice, or you won't be able to look at my life as a success. The line was when Edward Bergman points the gun in Rick's face. I want the letters of transit, or I will shoot you. Rick says, go ahead, shoot me. You'll be doing me a favor. I regret I was never given the opportunity. And when Major Strasser bragging about how well the war's going for Germany, we got Paris, London next, then what, Washington, New York? Rick says to that bullying Berlinian bastard, there's certain neighborhoods in New York, if I was you Germans, I wouldn't be so quick to enter. In your face, scumbag, pure gold. Now, this is a poem I wrote called The Luncheon Special. Then I called you from Dublin. 3 months of Sundays had elapsed since we had been toe-to-toe. Enthusiasm was pouring through that machine, but you kept saying no change, no change, challenging my authority on how your voice sounds when permeated by another being. Coins ran out, your last words, have fun in Dublin. Well, it was pub quiz night in the Irish capital. I was the token American on my team. My job was to answer the arcane American historical facts, such as what was the first name and religion of the third virgin Elvis Presley had slept with. Cindy Lou Shakers, but it was Betty Joe of the Quakers. After the game and maybe one more pint, I think I'll leave a message on her business answering machine. Say I come back to America. Say I come back. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm seated at a table all by myself at Am Ryan's restaurant. What are the chances of you joining me? Are they 50-50? Are they better? The superiority of the food negates any company suspect. Remember, just like always, you won't have to get the luncheon special, although I probably will. Thank you. Did
Thank
you hear that?
Chris. Thank you, sir. Could you say all that again? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, Chris. Thank you very much. We heard it all. And going to bring us now to Jillian Powers.
This Fire by Jack Powers. No one wants the heat of this fire. No one wants to burn alive. But that's where I thrive. At the absolute of ever, never hearing never, always feeling what's alive. Thank you.
Thank you, Jillian. And moving on to John Hughes Engstrom. Good wave. Whoop, guys, unmute yourself.
Can you
There
hear
you
me? Great, okay. This is a poem by Dorothea Tanning, a surrealist painter and poet who had a very illustrious career with her visual art. She was, well, she was a surrealist and she was married to Max Ernst for a number of years. And when he died, she moved, they were living in Europe and she moved to the States and settled in New York City, where she fell in with the New York school of the New York School poets and became friends with James Merrill, which he writes about in her memoir, which is also good. It's called Between Lives. Okay, this one is called Destinations. Yesterday, I saw some bears at the top of a waterfall. They were watching salmon leap up from the cascade. It was on television and, moreover, part of an ad. Not one of them, salmon or bears, was impressed by the water's will, its weight, its wrath, its wall, the salmon flying out from that knockout force, like careless birds rising from a field of silver wheat. The falling water obviously had no intention of getting in the way of a salmon's destination. It was beautiful. Trouble was, the bears were there with bare intentions. Their heads bobbed up and down, perhaps admiring every quiver and flash, their 4 feet as firmly planted in water as the rock face itself. Now and then one of them opened its mouth to let a fish dive into it. That was the part that made me think of my own headlong leaps and dives when I thought there would be no mouths to receive me.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
I think we still have our phone participants online. That's great. And we're going to go next to Nancy Dotson. If she presses *6.
Hmm.
There you go.
The cat. Cat smells a glistening hot leg. She licks the salt off legs. Fan blows. Cat enjoys joyous happiness in cool air. Back fan sounds. Cat lies too near the fan. Cat sleeps. Do not disturb in heat. Sharp claws create useful tools. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you much. In the absence of Jeff Taylor, we're going to skip on over to Mr. Bill Lewis again.
Who will buy this wonderful feeling? I'm so high, I swear I could fly. Me, oh my, I don't want to lose it. What is it I must do to keep the sky so blue? There must be someone who will buy. It's really beautiful and sweet little song. It makes no sense whatsoever. Everything in the song is not about things you can buy. Money has nothing to do with it. It's what's in your heart. It's not even the color of the sky. If the sky looks like to you at that moment. Money is useful in many things, but not in love. So I have borrowed a poem from Charles Swain. I'm sure you're well familiar with Charles Swain. I'm not, but anyway, he is on the inside of the chocolate wrapper. So he gets a violet in her lovely hair, a rose within her fingers fair. But oh, her eyes, a lovelier violet disclose, and her ripe lips, the sweetest rose beneath the skies. A lute beneath her graceful hand breathes music forth at her command, but still her tongue. Far richer music calls to birth than all the minstrel power on earth can give to song. And thus she moves in tender light, the purest ray where all is bright, sincere and sweet, and sheds a grateful influence round that bellows air the very ground beneath her feet.
Thank you, Bill. And now on to the Magister Galt, aka Ed Galt.
Thank you very much. This next one could have been one of my Halloween pieces. Maybe it'll work into a science fiction collection someday, I hope. It's called Wisdom of the Teacher. I think I may have read this before, but since it's right around the time of Halloween, I'll go with it. Wisdom of the Teacher. It was forbidden to go to the place of the towers. The spirits of the ancients dwelt there, and they were evil. It was they who harnessed the dark powers that would bring death to their world. It was our teacher who told us much of what we needed to know. And there was a lot we knew he dared not tell us, trying to protect us. Even us, the few who had, the few who the tribe honored with learning, have to be protected from certain truths. But only one would be chosen to be the tribe's new teacher. Most of us would be scribes. That was fine. Few, if any of us, wanted to be the teacher. God, the cost. It was the chosen student who would go and dwell in the towers for a week. Many never came back. Our teacher, though, did come back. And many in the towers, many in the tribe believed he was possessed. That's why our tribe only has one teacher. And he is very old. All we could do is sit and look dumbly into the fire as he recounted all he knew from the ancient times. Yes, all we could do was sit and look dumbly into the fire as he recounted all he knew from the ancient times. Horror after horror. On the night he chose his successor, God help him, he told us he was going to die, but he wanted us to know that much of what we had heard about the flying machines or the great plagues and famines were simply myth or exaggeration.
Might want to check your connection, Ed.
For example, the world as we knew it would never have supported 7 ball. It was a dish. The sun would continue to orbit. Okay. It was the last you got. What was the last you got? Are you hearing me?
I can hear you now. I'm not sure. Your voice got very slow and it was hard to follow. If you want to start over, I don't blame you, but you gotta check the
What
connection.
was the last thing?
I think it was the,
Okay.
can someone help me out here?
It was hard because you were cutting in and out. So it was like just go into gurgling and then you heard a few words. And so trying to remember what was last, I'm not sure if people can pull that out. It was good for about half, even though it was gurgling, but then it started
Okay.
breaking
Let
down.
me
I
see
would
if I
say
If you
can.
want to
half.
start over, that's fine.
Okay. I'm sorry. All right. Let me see if I can get to a. Yeah, connection seems to be hard tonight. Okay. Wisdom of the teacher. It was forbidden to go to the place of the towers. The spirits of the ancients dwelt there, and they were evil. It was they who harnessed the dark powers that would bring death to their world. It was our teacher who told us much of what we needed to know, and there was a lot we knew he dared not tell us. Even the few who the tribe honored with learning have to be protected from certain truths, but only one would be chosen to be the tribe's new teacher. Most of us would be scribes. That was fine. Few, if any of us, wanted to be the teacher. God, the cost. It was the chosen student who would go and dwell in the towers for a week. That's why our tribe has only one teacher. Our teacher, though, came back, and many in the tribe believe he was possessed. Many never came back. All we could do is sit and look dumbly into the fire as he recounted all he knew of the ancient times, horror after horror. On the night he chose his successor, God help him, he told us he was going to die. But he wanted us to know that much of what we had heard about the flying machines or the great plagues and famines was simply myth or exaggeration. For example, the world as we knew it could never have supported 7 billion people. It was a disk, not a planet, and the sun would continue to orbit as long as we made the necessary sacrifices. Thank you. I hope you all got it that time.
Oh, yeah, we did. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Who do we have next? Yes. Back for a second time, our other phone participant, Miss Carol Weston.
Oh, hello, just a second.
No worries, take your time.
I wanted to ask C.C. Chagra if I could have his address and phone number. Anyway, my nephew, I'm just going to quote him. He's editor of the Portland Press Herald, and he said, oh dear, I'm sorry about this. He said, either they are going to kill us fast with nuclear bombs or slowly with global warming. Sorry to end with that.
Is that your spot, Carol?
Yes.
Oh, okay, just wanted to make sure. Thank you, Carol. Okay.
Ask Carol, does she have a cell phone that gets texts?
I know she does not. I'll send it to me and I'll CC and I'll give it to her tomorrow. I'll give her a call.
I have her cell. I don't have her email. I could get it to you.
She doesn't have email. She doesn't have a cell. It's a regular phone.
Got it. Okay, I'll call. I'll get it to you and call her.
Sounds good. I am bringing us now to Kathleen Hulser. Oh, she said you declined?
I decline. Yeah, no, I just go ahead. Other people.
No problem. Okay, so now one more musical interlude with Mr. Ethan Mackler. Maybe? Oh, there she is. There he is. There we go. Thank you, Ethan. Hope to see you on Friday. Up next to last, we have Mr. C.C. Ashagra.
Okay. All right. So the art show went well too. I'll try to put something together. I did an artist talk, and as the next few weeks go by, I'll try to play a little something with that. But in the back of the book, like I mentioned, are the reflections. I'm going to read a paragraph from the first one, and it says, the work in your hands, this is from the middle of it, the work in your hands contains thoughts, observations, and emotions from the cloaked and naked revelations of what I see as soul lessons for us all. It lets attempts and failures outweigh successes. The open microphone breathes best when it embraces inclusiveness in all forms, avoiding division and traps of exclusivity. The essence of the open microphone thrives on raw, honest, and vulnerable first-time participants. And so we become each moment. We honor what is sacred and who is sacred. From silence to sound and from stillness to motion, we face the indivisibility of life. That's a little something from Scared Sacred, for a little something from Death of an Ego. And this is for Jack, because during the 2000, when they had the Boston Poetry Awards, they asked me to host Building the Poetry Community. And at that year, there were 7 large venues going on in Boston, Cambridge, and Roxbury, and might have been beyond, including the slam that the lesbian slam over at the Jazz Bar, Jeff Robinson, the one over Club Passemes was there from Boston, and I forget the gentleman's name. Anyway, Jack Powers was on that panel of 7 people, and he was the only one that what the newspaper article read railed against the stratification of poetry. And everyone else saying, no, we got to make money, the bar's got to make money, the door's got to make money, so maybe we should do this entertainment thing. And as I walked in, the host of the venue, the guy that ran the place where it was held, I forget the name of that school in Cambridge, in Harvard Square, the little tiny place. Anyway, that was held there. And as I was walking in the door, he goes, good luck, you got a possible job. And so on that note, I'm going to just read this, and I'll be another paragraph. In all of its formats in the 1990s, the open microphone was awash in desires to promote the commercialization of self, with performance artists and spoken word artists forging rifts between their brothers and sisters of free speech. New marketing ideas popularizing poetry gave way to competing egos. Poets seeking victories over other artists began to become insensitive to the behaviors that harm hope itself. This was the stratification and sportification of art and free speech. Still, soul seekers, new and genuine raw talent, and the weathered and wise seniors of a subterranean art scene persisted in speaking out. Under the glare of winners, champions, and reigning masters, nothing stopped the many beautiful new artists from stepping out human into their public journey. Free voices kept emerging to survive their own egos, giving us new treasures. And definitely, James Van Loy, you are among those who did not falter when it comes to the role of what it meant to speak and not be silenced. And I thank you for that, and for being Jack's friend all these years too. So yeah, that's what and then there's a little other thing too. But like I said, it's in the chat, and I hope everyone either gets this book or gets it for someone who's thinking of doing this with their life. And I guess I'm going to be doing this for a while. So if I get tired of repeating, there's enough in here to talk about. So we'll see what happens. I hope I don't bore you. I'll get the rest of the video and the art show to you, or little excerpts of it in the future. And thank you. And it's always good to hear you, Carol, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, CC. And now we have James Van Lloyd to bring us home.
Yeah, so I have a piece, this is a genealogy. It's taken me a while to realize it fully, but of course we again live on a flightway. The place we lived before on Old Stab and Kill was actually a international migratory route. So spring and fall, all sorts of rarely seen species would naturally come through. The place we lived was surrounded by over 100 trees and was an important link in a green space up and down from Hillcrest Park to I-93 below. Here, right on Dorchester Avenue, almost to Gallivan Boulevard, a major cross street to Jamaica Plain, there's several huge white pines. Directly across the avenue where a pair of hawks nested for a number of years, but now, after a terrific blizzard where I saw the frenzied crows mob the pine trees, a black pair goes in and out to their nest. And even though the neighbors cut down all the maple trees that were on one side of the house, the birds still come through here from the trees set up the hill, flying right at the same level of the top floor triple-decker porches where I sat, thinking on about my great-grandfather's cousin Jacobus, and how he wrote about his dream of flying about the Wies house, the orphanage, in his sleeping mind, finally to confront the bully who tormented his institutional life, like Donald Trump won't leave America alone now. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday you'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind you, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where they'll find you, somewhere over the rainbow. Blue birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh, why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I?
Thank you, James, and thanks to everyone who's come out tonight. And I hope to see at least a few of you at the gathering next week, which should be taking place on November 9th. I'll be confirming that with Dwayne later on, and hopefully we'll have a feature announced. The one I wanted to come has not gotten back to me, and I just hope she is not, they have not succumbed to any COVID-related illness. They did have COVID, but I haven't heard much from them since their last message. So hopefully they're okay. And hopefully we'll have more updates coming. I know who I'd like to feature right before Christmas. So we'll be making some announcements and more good things happening coming up for not just the rest of the year, but for Stone Soup in 2023. Sitting on a lot of knowledge, and can't wait to share some of it with you if it turns out for the best. So, little Nico in the background. Now we need Nico and Walter to date now. Walter the Terrier. Would that be? Yes. But thank you guys very much for coming out. Time to do the obligatory wave for the picture tomorrow. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Vote this coming Tuesday. Do what you can. We're living in precarious times. We'll see how precarious they become, either more or less, or either much more or slightly itty bitty less come next Wednesday. And I'm sure we'll all talk about it. Take care of yourselves and have a good night. Bye, Nico.
Come here, honey.
What's
He's
that?
gonna take a picture.
I thought we did.
Bye, Nico.